Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Female Educators Round Table. We have another guest this evening who's going to share their home education journey with us. They are from the UK. My name is Alicia Scott. I'm an educator and also a home educator advocate. And my co-host, Debbie Eno, I'm going to let her introduce herself.
All right, thank you, Alicia. Right, my name is Debbie Eno. I am an educator, like Alicia. I'm trying to find a title for myself regarding the home. I am not a home educator myself, but I believe in giving choices for alternative education. I'm also a coach and a public speaker. Yeah, that's it. We now, as Alicia said, we have a guest from the UK, which is, it's lovely because most of our guests seems to be from across the waters. So when we have a home educator stroke homeschooling from the UK, it's really nice because it just reminds us that, yes, that's something in the UK we want to promote even more. Right, welcome. Please introduce yourself and tell us, in terms of, yes, we know you're from the UK and in terms of your journey. Michelle?
Hello. I'm from the UK, as Debbie says. I've been homeschooling since last time, year 7, I decided to take him out. So I've been doing it since June of this year. How did we get there? So my son started school in year 7. We chose, I thought, for him. Of the school was the best that you can be. So yeah, I thought that would be the best place for him based on that ethos. Then I realized it was having difficulties. It began with a lot of detention in school, then a lot of calls from the teacher regarding his behavior. I'm the kind of parent that is always on the teacher's side to help support their needs as well as my child's needs. With all 3 of my children, my son is the middle child. So yeah, I was always there to support the teacher, see what I could help them with in school hours and at home as well to back them up. But it just felt like every single day we was going round and round in circles, going back to the same point, to the point where I was like, well, you guys need to work out what the issue is, because my son is good at home. And the picture that they were painting out for him, he was just a monster. Completely different to how he behaved at home. So I was trying to tell them there must be something happening at school. They need to kind of dig deep and find out what is happening, what the reasons are. Could he be bullied? Is he not understanding the work? Through that as well, it was a lot of the relationship was breaking down between me and him, because I just could not find a solution to what was happening. And I felt like he was being punished at school, punished at home. Like, I think, how many detentions was it coming to? Probably in the first 3 terms, he had 30 logs. What? Detentions.
What?
Yeah, to the point I had to say, are you finding this working, the detentions? Is there not another way to do this? He got excluded. He got excluded for fighting, but it wasn't, fighting's fighting in school, but compared to the degree of it, he was kind of defending himself from being kind of bullied in a sense. They were targeting him. again, I think he got excluded 3 times. Yeah, by the 3rd time I said, no, I can't have this happen. I can see what's happening. It's funny because the inclusion officer was, you know, when I picked the school, I saw a lot of people that looked, a lot of teachers that looked like us, looked like him. So I thought, okay, he may have a chance, but those same teachers who I thought would be a mentor turned out to be the enemy, so to speak. I remember having a talk with the inclusion officer, and one of the mentors from the Black Men of London, 100 Black men came on board, which I really appreciate. And I said to the inclusion officer, he not come to you and talk to you if he has any problems, any issues that he's going through? And he kind of laughed and said, oh, you know, I'm the last person children want to speak to. I'm normally the one you deal with at the end. And I thought, you know, someone who kind of represents us, why would you want to be that person? You know, why would you want to be someone the children could fear when, you know, most Black boys, they need that mentorship. So yeah, that was a sign for me. But the last straw was when he was excluded the 3rd time. Again, they painted it, I'm not saying he's perfect, but they painted him out to be more of an animal. And I said, you know, this is not really good, because they were having children give witness statements. They were looking at CCTV. It was just like, I said, you're getting him prepared for the judicial system. You know, this is grooming. And the teachers nodded, yeah, it is. And I was like, well, you shouldn't really be agreeing. It came to the final point where they were going to try and put things in place, but I think it was too late, because to me, it felt like there would be no leeway if he did make a mistake. They would have to follow protocol because of what's happened before. So I said, I kind of threatened him from before. I used it as a kind of bargaining tool, that if he didn't, if my son didn't, you know, kind of get better before June, a certain time, I'd homeschool him. And yeah, that's what it came to. I think he thought I was bluffing. So it was a big shock for him when it actually happened. But I had to, I keep saying to people, I had to save him from himself. Yeah. A lot of, I'll talk about as well, you know, my decision about it. I spoke to a lot of people, and a lot of people were apprehensive, like, how are you going to do this? And what about school? What about his education? Will you have time? But the thing is, I did a bit of research. Good thing is, his family on his paternal side, a lot of the children there, his cousins, are homeschooled. So I had a bit of background to it. So I kind of reached out to them, and they gave me a lot of encouragement. I think I spoke to one, and she was like, oh, I'm in Butlins at the moment. We're in Butlins, you know, and it's term time. And yeah, that kind of sold it to me in a sense. Not that we've been on holiday anywhere, but just the flexibility and not to worry that his education won't suffer. That was the main thing. But I kind of knew him, because his education was suffering being at school. He was being sent out, detentions, exclusions. Yeah, it was to the point I was getting anxiety, because I'd wait until 10 to 3 every day, waiting for that email to say he's in detention. It was, yeah, just thinking about it, yeah, the anxiety, just waiting for a message or an email to say your son's done this or that. And it just feels good not to have that anymore. And it was terrible for him at home, because, you know, his safe haven at home was being turned into like a punishment quarters. You know, you're not doing good at school, you're going to be punished. I'm taking this away from you, taking that. And it really kind of started breaking down our relationship. No trust in him, just thinking, is he going to let me down? Made me think, where have I gone wrong? You know, had doubts of myself as a parent. But yeah, he's doing much better now.
That's interesting. That's powerful,
eh? So powerful, and such a lot to unpack. And thank you so much for sharing, Michelle, because
Thank you.
it sounds like it's been a journey, but one that definitely had to be embarked on. Because can I just go back first of all, like, so did you say 30 in detentions? So
yeah, 30 plus.
And this was at the start of year 7, right? So just so I can clarify.
Yeah, and considering he just go down 6, literally. He'd gone from a really small, close-knit church school into this school, trying to find himself, finding peer groups. It was just a bit too much for him. I think it was just overwhelming. So he was just doing the most, trying to fit in and establish, and the teachers didn't have no time to kind of help look into that. It's like it was punishment first before
questioning.
Yeah, saying what it is, because to me, I feel it was possibly there was different peer groups there and he was trying to impress them. I'm not saying he was an angel in the school at all, but I think there was a lot of things going on where he felt he had to do the most to fit in. So that's where they should have had a look at his friendship groups and, you know, help them navigate. But it was just, constantly being reprimanded for things rather than being encouraged.
I'm so confused, because the fact that you've given a child 5, this is a child that come from a primary school, and now he coming into a secondary school. Everybody knows that when they actually come from a primary school of having one teacher, to come into a secondary school where they have all these different teachers, it's a mindful. So giving a secondary school child in year 7 detention like this, sorry, the school needs to be accountable. Because you see, they haven't done anything to resolve the issue, because this child is coming from a primary school of, as I said, having one teacher, to come into a big school of having so many teachers and so many children that you don't know. It's a mindful for these children. And they don't know how to navigate.
They were all being taught, because of the social distancing and the COVID measures they had in place, they were not moving around the school. So they were having a science lesson in a regular classroom. They're not being immersed into each subject, like being in a science room with Bunsen burners charts on the wall. They hadn't even seen their gymnasium. They had PE and never seen their gym. So they're not really getting the full experience. And for my son, the way he learns is different. He needs to be immersed, and, you know, he has a different learning style. So I think, you know, they did say that did affect some of the children as well, not being able to move around and making full use of facilities. But yeah, as you were saying, they've come out of a pandemic, this whole new world and a whole new school. And to be honest, I don't think he was the only child there that was going through this as well. There was quite a few.
Definitely wouldn't have been. And I agree with Debbie that the school should have been definitely held accountable, and they should have been, the head teacher should have been mindful of the fact that children had just been through a pandemic. All of us as adults found it difficult to navigate. So what were these poor children going through? They hadn't completed year 6. So then he wouldn't have got the transition experience, and the transition experience is very poor anyway. But he didn't get anything. Your son didn't get any transition whatsoever. So how did the secondary school account for that? And it sounds like they didn't. They should have not been given out detentions. I seem like they're just giving them out for anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
30. And yes, 7 child, 30.
I really,
that makes no sense.
I can't get my head around it. Debbie, you're the secondary school expert, please.
Yeah, but you know, it's interesting. Yesterday, yeah, but it's interesting because yesterday I had a group of I had 3 groups of year 7 yesterday, and one group that was so noisy and I threatened the whole class with detention. And it's like, when you look at them, then they'll be quiet and then they start chatting, and then halfway through, they say, Miss, are we in detention? And then I said, no. I said, but you guys need to actually start, listening, etc. But when you see them, it's really, it's like they are so confused. Because 2 weeks ago, when we had the anti-bullying, one of the things I was saying to them, okay, because I had most of year 7 for the whole day. And I said to them, you guys are year 7, what does it feel like coming into secondary school? Some of them hate it. Some of them say that I just feel lost, miss. Because in my primary school, it was easy. Now we have these teachers that are shouting at us and telling us to shut up. And it's a whole different minefield for these little babies. Because they're coming from year 7, year 6, in a primary school that they have no contact with any teacher except their form teacher, to going into a big school of every lesson you have to move about, and you have different teacher. That same week of anti-bullying week, one of the children were crying. And I said to her, what's the matter? She said she just got told her from the teacher. The teacher wasn't listening. She didn't understand. And the poor child, because I was going to another class, I was just skating across, but then I had to stop because the teacher didn't understand and the teacher wasn't listening. And it's like, I think as educators, we are forgetting that, yes, 7 children are coming from primary school, so we cannot treat them like if they were there already. We have to treat them very, very differently, because this is the first time they're having to go from class to class to class. Because the reason why that child was crying, she was told by the teacher, because she couldn't remember the class she's supposed to go to. That's understandable. You see, and I think that teachers are forgetting and giving a child 30 detention just coming from a second primary school. That's rubbish. It doesn't matter what the child done. That's stupidness. And I do feel that it's a pity, a situation like that. The school need a letter to have written to them, to highlight that this child have just had a transition, not even proper transition, because we want COVID. And how could that child be given detention anytime he breathes?
It's funny because every time something happened, it got to a point where I was on their side, and then afterwards I thought, maybe I'm being too agreeable, so they're using that as a crutch to keep contacting me. Everything that he does wrong, contact me. So I started challenging them, and you challenge them, and then they're like, "Oh, right, no, we didn't mean it that way. That's not it. Right, we'll put this in place. We'll sit and we'll have meetings about putting things in place, and then we're back to square one again within a week." So what happened to everything that we discussed before that we was going to try and, but yeah, it was that, to be honest, for what I know he needed, they did not have the resources. The teachers don't have time to do that. The schooling compared to when I went to school, the teachers were different. I mean, they were hard, but they had a bit of heart. They had time. They had time to nurture whatever light that they saw in you. But now they don't have, they even agreed they don't have the time or the resources. Even there was a suggestion from one of the mentors from the 100 Black Men of London, why don't you incorporate in the drama classes, scenarios to do with behavior and this, that, and they were just like, we great, but we don't have time. That's not on the curriculum. curriculum. So, yeah, even when I was out, they were just, okay, well, let us know. You know, here's the email address, and you need to let the government know, and let Lewisham Education know. They didn't try. They were just like, yeah, let us know when you decide.
That's so cold though and callous.
Very.
Wow.
They'd had
Wow.
enough. They'd had enough. And I had enough at that point. So.
Yeah. But it is sad that when you actually, you see, what I don't understand, that's why I keep on talking about program education. What I don't understand, you keep on giving this detention and there's no change in this behavior. You need to look deeper as to what are the causal factor. There's always a cause and effect. You can look at the effect of that instead of looking at the cause of it. So the school actually failed the child instead of looking, what's the cause of all of that? And they're looking at the effect of the situation. Because you can't be giving total detention plus, and you're not seeing any more improvement, and you're still giving it. It doesn't make sense.
And on top of that, the exclusions as well. The exclusions.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
Class, it was so disruptive, so disruptive. So I said, you know, it's best that I just kind of teach him at home, give him the confidence that he needs, do lessons at his own pace. I know he gets easily distracted, and you know, he can get bored and find it to get up and be disruptive. So he needs, I know the kind of learning style that he needs, and school is not going to give it to him. So yeah, that's why I was happy to kind of take him out and try it. I think going through the lockdown and when schools were closed and having a go at doing that kind of helped as well, gave confidence. Even during in primary school, I think that's when it kind of started as well. He didn't, there was, you know, it was difficult to log on, navigate pandemic, and they would send emails like has to log into the session, has failed to do the homeschool, has failed. Like, you know, nobody's failed here.
Exactly.
They're all trying, like, change your language.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so powerful. You know, the language. Educators need to think of the language that they're using when they're dealing with children, because this language sooner or later becomes this child reality. And the child begin to program it in the psychic, and the child begin to act according to the label that they've been given from school. It is so sad, because that's exactly what the student was saying to me yesterday, yeah. I was saying to them, don't you ever, I was doing year sevens, and I said, don't you ever allow and accept any teacher to tell you that you're stupid, you're silly, and all of that. Miss, when I told one teacher that I'm not silly, she told me to shut up. I said, what? So the whole thing escalated. I understand educators are under pressure, but when it comes to students and children, we need to be very mindful how we navigate that, because these children, the negative we're saying to them, become their reality, and they do not remain children for long. They then become an adult who then have this lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, and inability to question, because they're so afraid of the powers that be, because when they were children in school, they were actually shut down. So we also need to remember this children that have been spoken to or spoken down to, they do not remain children for long. There's a lot of these adults who now are adults from the product of being told that they're not good enough or they're stupid, etc. So we have to be so mindful as educators, because our words are extremely, extremely powerful.
So
100%.
So you shared with us why you decided to embark on your homeschool journey, and you've sort of mentioned one area that you feel traditional education lacks. what else do you feel the traditional school lacks?
I feel, well, compared to probably, because I have an older daughter, one's 20, middle son is the youngest is 10. They're doing very well. But compared to when I was at school, like before, they had time to, you know, see if there's a quality in a child to bring that out, nurture that. I think everything right now, I know people teaching profession, it's wanting to make a change, just adverts, make a change, realize there's not much that they can do, there's so much control. Can't even be to the children as via statistics, curriculum. There's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy in the systems. Yeah, that's what I find. It's not about the children anymore. And great, look good at academics, that they can get funding and grants and access to that. Looking good Ofsted, looking good for Ofsted, and if your child will, you know, come in, work, get the grades, achieve, make the results, they haven't got time. So that's what I think changed. Yeah, everything's rushed. Even their lesson plans as well. Yeah.
It is true. I see that.
Yeah, very, very true. Debbie and I often say that educators are bound by the constraints of the curriculum, and there might be an area that you want to spend longer on, or an area that you might want to skip, but there's nothing you can do. Your hands are tied. You've just got this curriculum that you have to get through and follow. And it's like you said, Michelle, a lot of educators are bound by red tape and bureaucracy, and there's not much that they can do. There's not much leeway. So that is often what a lot of parents say, that, and you mentioned earlier as well, the flexibility that you've got with home education. You've got that beauty now that you're able to determine what your son's learning.
And you know, the beautiful thing about that is people have this program mindset that home education or homeschooling means that the child is sitting at the table in the same fashion as they're sitting at the school. Let me tell you, parents out there, although the children go to school to get there for 8:30, right? And they finish at 3 or 10 past 3. All of that are not taken up by education. When they're coming from the classroom to the classroom from playtime, it's supposed to be 50 minutes lesson. Sometimes you might have 30 minutes. Guess what? Because when they come in, the time they take to settle and all of that. So it is not prescriptive as you all think it is. And home education offers the opportunity of the parents and the child, to understand each other, to work together, and to find what works for that child. And education is not sitting in the book all the time. The brain cannot function like that. The brain could only take 20 minutes at a time. So as educators, we turn into children bad anyway, because after 20 minutes, you're going to see they start wandering off. They say to you, it's interesting because I keep on looking at that, I'm laughing, right? They're wandering off, they start chatting. The minute you see that as an educator, you need to stop. Because guess what? Nothing is going into that brain. And then you start labeling the child disruptive. The child is not disruptive, you know. The brain cannot work for more than 20 minutes at a time. So we need to actually start teaching differently. We cannot teach that, you know, we have them for 50 minutes, so we want to teach 50 minutes. No. Look after 20 minutes, see what happens. A split 10 minutes, you lose your student in for 10 minutes, and then you pick them up again. I want you to do that exercise, and then you come back and tell me. It's a fact. So in between that time, when a child is disruptive, instead of you looking at the reason behind it because the brain is tired, instead you're telling the child off and say, oh, turn around, sit still, etc. One of the beautiful things of me being a psychologist and teaching at the same together, especially, you know, I'm beginning to really love teaching the year sevens, because after 20 minutes, I'm saying to them, yeah, you guys are being, I noticed that you guys are being disruptive now, right? Because your brain's tired, isn't it? Yes, miss, I can't concentrate anymore. And it's like, I bust out laughing, and they too have to laugh because I'm seeing the signs. So we need to
start. A great teacher.
You know, well, I've been told that I need to be firmer and stricter, I've been told. And I can't connect with the firmer and stricter. As I said to my student, we need to use my inside voice. Because there is no point. You know, you're looking at the children, right? And you see after 20 minutes, they're gone. They're gone. And it's interesting to see. We need to start picking those signs up, educators. It doesn't matter how they train us. Because just think as adults, when you go on a training, right? And they're training you in, or is it professional development, right? After 20 minutes, I start doodling, I start planning another lesson because my brain's gone. You cannot hold attention for more than 20 minutes without giving a brain break. Anyway, sorry, I am.
Going back to your point, I did have to unlearn all of that, as you were saying, the whole, you know, they sit there 6 hours at school. You know, I have, my friend will ring me up, I have the self-employed as well, so I can kind of fit in him around my work schedule. And the particular person will call and say, oh, is he doing any work? I'm like, oh, well, we've done work. You know, she said that he has to sit at a desk, you know, working. We were able to fit about 4 lessons in about 3 to 4 hours. I let him do short, sharp learning. We'll do a bit of, and most of it is revision work as well. Then he's actually learning, you know, something that he doesn't know. He's learning by revising. It's just more concise way of learning about that subject. We learn from revision books. It's more concise, I find, and it was quite good because I found he is quite intelligent. You know,
of course it is.
School made me doubt that he was. And, you know, I big him up and say, oh, you are clever, aren't you? You know what you're doing. What was all that about then, you know? And I've seen so much change in him, due to doing his confidence. I mean, it's getting there, but he's much more confident. But, I find that works best, short to the point, learning on each subject. We can do 3 or 4 in a day, and that's it. He's got the rest of the day to do whatever he wants. You know, when I get that phone call, why is he not working? He's done his work. He's learning to cook rice.
Fantastic.
Make his lunch or tidying his room, or, you know, he can have free play, go on his PlayStation, his Xbox. So, yeah. And as well, being self-employed, he comes to work with me. Everything we do is a learning experience now. Yes. We go shopping, we incorporate what that is. He asked how to be conscious now, and he asked me a question. I can't just brush with, you know, some answer, or I don't know, I haven't got time. I have to really explain. So everything is a learning activity. He comes to work with me as well.
Excellent.
That's fantastic.
If I have another job as a merchandise, I'm going to help me do that. So now he's getting experience. I'm kind of giving him a bit of work experience to add to the CV already, or just to get his mind in there. And I think the only thing, was the worry was the social aspect. But we've managed to pick him joining organisations such as, he was with the 100 Black Men of London. He's now with the YLA, Young Leaders Academy. So every day like classroom sessions teaching them about Black history, about empowering themselves, being young leaders in their society. And that's with a range of different age groups as well. I think that's from age 8 or 9 up to 16. So he's mixing with different ages, and they really have a lot of confidence in them as well. In him, he still meets up with some of his friends to play football and part of a football team as well. So yeah, he still kind of has that social aspect. Most children stay on their games anyway. So he still connects with his friends all that way, WhatsApp and on the online gaming. So yeah, it's definitely been a positive move. The plan was to only do it for year 8 and year 8's because my daughter, we've been looking at secondary schools for her, and he's looking at it from a different standpoint now. Like he's come along to the viewings, and he different things in the school. There was one school that he did not want to go to, and it was his turn when we were looking at him. And this time around, when we went, he's like, "This is one I want to go." Like, strict Catholic. The school that I wanted to, that he got involved was a bit more. Well, I wouldn't say relaxed, but like I said, their motto was, be the best that you can be. And I thought that's what they nurture, find what his is, and if it's not systemic, they could, steer him, follow his kind of guide and let him expand on what he's actually interested. If he's good at bridging into economics and become a chef. Well, I thought it was about, grades and academia. It's just about who you are as a person. But he actually wants to this school now, which is just on academics, because his mind has been reading. Yeah. So that was quite interesting. But I'll see how it goes, because I kind of understand he wants to be in school to do what's best for him.
Yeah. Right. Well, you've answered the benefit of homeschooling already.
Yeah.
The other one is, we know that when children are in primary school, grades are high and they're very curious, but when they get to secondary school, they lose all of that. How can this be maintained in homeschool? So as a home educator, how could you maintain the curiosity and the thirst for knowledge which they had in primary age group, but when they come into secondary age group, they lose that? So how could you, foster that? How could you encourage that? How could you ensure that that is maintained in terms of the curiosity and all of those things in secondary school?
I would say, everyone loves play, no matter what age you are. With work, there's got to be play, whichever way how you do it. But I think, is that to wane their curiosity or encourage curiosity, do practical things, we haven't been able to do much of that, but the plan is to go out to museums and, visit places, things that he's interested in, visit that, incorporate, yeah, everything you do is a learning experience. So that's it, learn through play and just being hands-on.
Yeah.
And just make it interesting, because we've had to do a lot of different things to see what work, vision books. We've done learning. So just mix it up, just keep it fresh, and a good variety of things to read them, to learn. I think kids, and find the right learning style for the child, just adapting style that help them try and fit them into a box. I mean, it's been easy breezy. We've had different methods to get to this, but what he works is videos. He likes finding out where she's from, Lewisham Edgerton. I had stories that they were completely against. They were completely against school. You there, what you're doing, stick to a timetable. But this lady was quite nice, and she gave me a few online resources. Which were really helpful. Yeah, one of the best actually. I think it's called, and it's by teachers. I think it's actually create the videos and the content, and it's been really beneficial for him because he's more visual rather than writing. So he will learn everything, dictate, write it down, and it's there for him to revise. So yeah, back to your question, yeah, just learn through play, keep it a good variety of things. That's how I learned in primary school. Up until the point it should continue.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you, because that's something I'm trying to say to the students as well. I want you to think of your books that you had in primary school or nursery, and why did you remember those books? Because of the colors, etc., or the image you bring up, etc. So that's what I want you to start thinking about now. Try learning in that way, because as we become older, we lose the importance and the emphasis on play. And play is how people learn through practical experiences. So that's something need to be fostered. Yeah. Okay, Alicia.
In what ways do you feel that home education helps young people navigate the real world? I know that you mentioned before about cooking. So is there any other ways that you feel that home education helps them to navigate the real world?
Yeah, I think maybe because you have more, we have more time. It's solely focused on the academic. So we have 2 to 4 hours a day. Fridays we don't do anything. It's just free, whatever you want to do. But Monday to Thursday, we have our times, or not even sectors, to do things, and then outside of that, he's got time to just be himself. If he wants to learn about something, he's got that time to do it. And like I said, every question that he asks or anything comes up, we've got time to talk about it and go into it as well. So, and you don't, like Debbie said, you don't waste time having to travel and from class lesson to lesson, trying to conform, being something else. You can just kind of be your own identity. And mixing with other children, again, you're in that trying to, you are in that role as well, against other children, peers, etc. So now he's forming his own path. I'm helping him form a path. And I've got this book where he can write out affirmations. We can spend time working on him, visualization, intent, yeah, I mean, he doesn't like writing, but he's getting there with, so yeah, that's how we kind of define who we, and that was one of the reasons why I took him out of school. I just think I needed to press the reset button,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
start again, and go back. So if he does go back into mainstream school, no, well, not saying no one can tell him anything, but he knows who he is.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Very, very
Totally
important.
agree with that. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Mm.
Okay. What do you see the challenges and triumph of homeschooling will be or is? So, for example, what are some of the challenges? You highlight some of them at the beginning, but so what do you think that, in terms of you're continuing to homeschooling for the time being? So, what are some of the challenges that you are likely to encounter as he become older going into the next year?
The challenges.
Oh, so challenges and triumph, not only challenges, triumph as well.
Going to the next year, I think the challenge be that he wants to kind of retest into mainstream schools. So I did kind of say this year, I know that when it comes to time, he's going to be looking to going back into school. So that's one challenge. But the other challenges have been like us trying to find out what worked, what worked was, because like I said, I wasn't playing violin, I was with students and a teacher. So me having allowed to become one as well, in a sense, which having pencil, but the truth is that I have become more patient. I've learned to take on the challenges. It doesn't, there's some days he doesn't want to do any work. He doesn't want to get up out of bed. There's no reason, there's no motivation sometimes. So we've managed to overcome that. Yeah, the triumphs I've seen him develop, has become a more confident person. Even today, he wanted to meet his friends from school to play panic because like I'm so used to him being in here. I mean, little top walk to let him go. I have to let him go sometimes. He has been out with his back on, he's contactable, he's never obedient, his whole behavior changed. He's just been more of a pleasure to have, whereas before, like I said, I just felt like I broke down to the point I was going to send him to the country. But yeah, the challenge has been triumphs. So anybody wanting to get into it, like it does take about, I'll be honest, say about 2 to 3 months, 2 months out, and then yeah, it dealt in the end.
So you've sort of gone into my last question. So what would be 3 tips that you would give for someone who's considering homeschooling, home education? What are your 3 top tips?
Okay, the tips that were given to me, which really helped, is don't put pressure on yourself.
Great.
Don't pressure on yourself. Not easy. It's going to be days where you're like, not today. And so, okay, you're not going to suffer. going to suffer, and you have to leading into the second point is unlearn everything that you learn about education. Step back everything, and that's why I say it takes. I think we just relax, start brushing up. You've got to do this, setting up just relax, and just to slowly build yourself up into routine. And third, I'd say just join a community as well. I think to join a few communities, homeschooling communities. It's good to kind of share ideas. So yeah, there's groups on Facebook. We've got a group that I'm part of the group as well. That was really good. They really embraced and you know they once a week, so find a group that you connect with if you have any questions. And yeah, enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. I'd say stick to about 3 or 4 subjects a day. Keep it. It's half an hour, 45 minutes. That's it. They learn so much in that time. You'd be surprised how much. As I said, how much. So yeah, that's just learn everything on yourself. Don't put pressure on you. And join the group.
Yeah.
Like having doubt in your head all the time. Are you doing this right? Are you sure? Did he learn today? Is he learning? He's not sitting at the computer now. You know, just get into a community, you just feel small.
It's interesting, you know, one of the things that you say, which is so interesting in terms of you are learning every day, because it is the misconception that if you are not doing the 50 minutes lesson, you are not learning, which is a joke, as I keep on saying. In 20 minutes, your student could learn the whole topic that you had to do, because you're giving them in chunks. And the more they have it in chunks, the more they're able to understand it and learn it. So it's beautiful that you say, you know, your lesson is not more than 45 minutes. And I'm sure you're probably doing it in two lots of 20 minutes each. So that child is getting at the beginning, you see, this is how the brain operates. When you actually do something, at the beginning you remember, and the end you remember, the middle you don't. So in order to have maximum learning taking place, you need to do it in small pieces. So which means that you get this beginning, you get this middle, you get this beginning, you get this end. So that's how you need to do it in order so that learning takes place. Because when you give a whole chunk, you only remember in the first part and the last part. You could test that yourself, people, because the middle becomes blur. So if you want them to remember the middle, you need to do it in small chunks and then monitor how much learning have taken place. You'll be surprised as to how much your student learn when you actually do it in 20 minutes bite size.
So true.
Yeah.
I really do agree with all your top tips, especially because both Deb and I was nodding in agreement, especially the one about a lot of parents reference it as unschooling, and I totally agree. You need to make sure that you unschool your child, unschool yourself, and just start again, like you said before, Michelle. Press the reset button, and just learn your way. I totally agree, and definitely about joining the community. So you've got that support. So your top tips were amazing. And also a lot of parents, they feel like they put pressure on themselves. So again, I totally agree with all three, that don't put that pressure on yourself. You know your child best. You are their first teacher. So just go with the flow, take as long as you need to unschool, and just go from there.
Those tips were given to me people homework. I think that's the mantra, isn't it? Really, so, yeah.
One of the most fundamental factors, we have to unlearn or deprogram how we have been programmed when it comes to education. Because some of the program we've had, it doesn't work. So why do we need to repeat it to the next generation? That's the reason why we need to deprogram ourselves or unlearn or whatever you want to call it and start afresh. You know, because we cannot be taking these baggages from our time to saying, well, oh, well, it did work for me. So did it work for you though? It didn't. Because you've been so programmed, you think it worked for you, but it didn't. You know, I feel so strongly about that, you know.
Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your journey. You're just a testament to why home education is needed. Definitely, I feel that your story with your son is just, it shows that sometimes you just need to listen to your child and do what's best for your child. And yeah, if home education's the way, then definitely don't hesitate and just do it. Because imagine if you had left him in the system, like left him.
Oh my gosh.
It's not even worth imagining.
I've heard of.
Yeah, you know what, because already.
Yeah, the schools to prison pipeline.
Yep.
And it was year 7. I'm still trying to get my head around that.
Exactly. I'm still so alarmed.
I'm like a dinosaur. I must be a dinosaur because I'm sorry, I don't understand how anyone could amass. I'm sure even the worst culprits from my secondary school days did not even amass 30 detentions in the space of the 5 years. So I'm trying to get my head around how a year 7 can amass 30 detentions in the first term. Like, I can't get my head around it. I'd love to speak to every single one of those teachers that issues over detention and want to go through, ask them what's going through your head right now. Like, seriously.
Exactly.
Something's not right with them.
Just blank. They were blank. Yeah, they were blank.
Year 7, you know, year 7. When you look at this,
I can't get my head around it.
I can't either. Because
and like you said, the whole proof thing, that was my worst nightmare. That was the worst nightmare. That was the anxiety for me. That's what stopped him from himself right now. He cried when I took him out. I could see in the vision, they were setting him up for the school to prison pipeline. When I said to them, you know, collecting evidence and what was it, witness statements from children. I'm like, you're learning. They're sitting here writing witnesses, and it wasn't even coherent statements. And listening to you disagreed. I know you're doing. It's not happening. Now watch. Nodded. Yeah, it is. It's like the judicial system.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's sad though, because you see, yet again in this whole education system, we are continuing the programming of these children. You know, yes, see, they write witness statement for what, instead of the teachers finding out what are the real cause of this child behaving in that fashion. You know, instead you're dishing out the detention and then you're asking the others for witness statement. I find it so alarming because recently, you know, I normally teach 6th formers, right? But in the last, I think it's 3 months or whatever, I've been doing 2 days a week with year 7, 8, and 9. And yesterday I think most of my day yesterday was doing the 7s. And I'm just visualizing, I'm just looking at the innocentness of, you know, when I'm saying to them, you guys are still talking. It seems like a whole glass detention. No, miss. And it's like, you know, the worst of them still quieting down. So I just cannot imagine why and how you are giving a year 7 detention. If you're giving, when you've actually gone through the 10th detention, right? You say, hold on, this isn't working. Let me think of something else to do. Let me try another strategy. What gets me is as if these educators have nothing in their head. Sorry, educator, I'm not bashing you, because I'm confused. Because if you're giving 10 detention and it doesn't work, you need to try another method. Why try the same thing and expect a different result? It don't make no sense in my head.
Mm. Yeah, they just didn't have time to implement anything.
I don't know what time, because you're giving the child 30 detention. Has anything changed? No.
And no one, I said, so what happens in these detentions? And they kind of talk about what, and sometimes it was in seclusion as well. Seclusion, they do nothing there. They don't talk to no one. So I'm like, so you use time to kind of do some type of exercise or just it's see. It's like being put in the whole prison. Nothing, no intervention, nothing they build behavior going full flex. They're just like, why you're here, what you're going to do next time. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Those children just sit there and they put their head down, they lie down and sleep. After the 30 minutes, they get up and it's time to go because they're not allowed to be on the phone. That's nice time for quiet reflection, as I say to them. I say, okay, you have detention, what are you doing? I say, use this in quiet reflection, right? It doesn't make sense. Detention doesn't work. I don't understand how, when you give the 5 detention and you realize it's not working, why give more than, why continue? Doesn't make sense. Maybe there's something wrong with me because I don't see it works, because I see common sense is when you're already giving a child 10 detention, why are you expecting something different when the 5th one you give didn't make a difference? Why would the 10th one make a difference? And then the 30th, why would it make a difference with the 30th and it didn't make a difference with the 5? Well, maybe it's just me, I don't know.
All of us. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your story with us and your journey. We've really enjoyed speaking with you.
I've enjoyed being here with you. It's back to a really dark time now. We can, we're in the, so remove that.
No, your story is very, very powerful.
It is. It's a brilliant journey. Yep. We know it works. We just need more people to testify on the power of home education, alternative education. And even though there's some people out there might be anxious to do it, come on, don't be fooled when you hear teachers saying about the 6 hours in the classroom. Hell no, I just told you. And Alicia already told you. 6 hours in the classroom, yes, but how much 6 hours real work are they doing? And how much of that real work that is going into the head? That's the reality. Half the time you feel you're in the school and you're babysitting sometimes. Anyway, I'm not too sure I should be saying that, but that's true.
And every homeschool child that I've met, they are very forward thinking,
yes.
Very intelligent, articulate, and confident. Every single homeschool many conform to homeschooling or change to homeschooling reason. There's something very powerful.
Alicia, you frozen?
No. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next week. Next week. With another guest that's going to share their homeschool journey. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you.
Over to you, Debbie.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, my co-host, Alicia. Thank you, the Facebook audience. And home education and homeschooling, however you want to call it, because in America is one way, in England is the other way. It just means alternative education to the traditional education. And it does work. And in terms of the various reasons why parents take the children out of the traditional education, and do not feel afraid to take your child out, because learning is not only in the physical classroom, learning is everywhere, as COVID have actually showed us that you don't have to be in the physical building to learn. Learning is everywhere, and it's so fantastic learning outside because you are able to connect with it, right? So thank you everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next Friday when I have a female educator roundtable, and next Saturday, as Alicia say, when we are looking at home education. And then you are going to see me on my Facebook Live platform, every day, and Alicia on Instagram. And Michelle, where would you be?
On my Instagram or my socials, Instagram. Don't really share my story too much, but I am on Instagram as estate agent.
Okay. Okay, you could drop your link on my Facebook page as well.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much. Stay blessed. Take care. Don't forget to love yourself more than anyone else love you, because nobody could love you as well as you loving yourself.